Keith and Dave talk all things rugby league on the Dockhouse Rugby Show, with news, match reviews and special guests from the world of rugby league. Also available in audio format as the Dockhouse Rugby Pod. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Dockhouse Rugby Show. Joining us today and welcoming back to the show is good friend Andy Mazey, chairman of the Rochdale Hornets. Andy, it's great to have you back on the show and thanks for coming on. How have you been?
I'm very well, thanks. And it's always a pleasure to join you guys. It's, I've been counting the days down until I get to come back on the show,
Brilliant. Yeah, it's like Christmas, isn't it? Like Christmas.
It is. It's on the calendar and you just keep up. Every morning you get up, you scratch another one off, don't you?
Another day closer.
Christmas in April. What more could anybody ask for? Right, Andy, we're going to jump straight into it because obviously it's been a busy week in rugby league, and a couple of days ago you were trottled off to Huddersfield to attend the IMG meeting, and it was a vote whether it was for or against the IMG grading proposals. So, what was your was there another presentation? What happened? What was the process? Did you go in? Is it a secret ballot? Does everybody just put a letter in a box? Do you sit around the table? What's the sort of like format to it, and how does it roll out?
Well, it was it was a special general meeting, so there was other items on the agenda, but obviously the main item that caught the attention of the media and the press was obviously the IMG grading vote. And it was, the thing with it is, unlike the previous meetings whereby we were looking at proposals, this was all about voting on what we'd seen. We'd had follow-up conversations, we'd had the follow-up, the consultation sessions, and we'd reviewed the detail. We'd had the opportunities to talk to Rodri and to Tony Sutton at the RFL directly and as clubs if we wanted to. So the meeting this week was purely about the votes. It was about just sitting down and getting the vote done, really. So I'm pretty glad now it's done and it's all over, because it just feels like, I believed it was like a bit of a line in the sand moment, and hopefully now that, IMG and the powers that be can get on with doing what ultimately, the mandate is to go out and sell this sport and get some numbers improvement and some eyeballs on it.
Yeah, definitely. So there wasn't much in the way of talk around the contents of IMG and the grading. Again, it was pretty much straight into the vote, or was there a bit of chatter just before it?
No, it literally was straight into the vote, really. As I say, it was an important item on the agenda, and it was brought forward to be the headline item on that agenda, if you like. And the chair, Simon, he just went straight into it, really, because of the magnitude of it, really, and the importance. It was a case of, I think had we carried on with, started with other items, it would have been, it was the one that everybody was waiting for, type of thing. So I think
it was the elephant in the room, wasn't it?
Get it out the way early was the right one, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like a plan. So what was it? Did you have to stand up and tick a box, or how did the voting work?
No, it was obviously I've been party to quite a few votes over the years, and I've been involved in different ones. But on this particular occasion, it was very transparent and open. Everybody knew who was voting for what, because they literally went through the divisions in alphabetical order, and you literally said whether you were for or whether you were against, or obviously if you chose to abstain, then you could do. So, yeah, it was quite open and transparent. There was no hidden sort of voting and secret polls or anything. It was all above board, shall we say. Yeah. And, it was, obviously you've seen the results. It was pretty overwhelming, really. The majority were in favour for the proposals.
Yeah. It's. I think it was a surprise to some how overwhelming the vote came in at, and I suppose, as you say, that's a line in the sand that we can move forward. And I believe Rochdale were positive. And what were some of those reasons why, Andy? What works well for you with this new dawn?
Well, we're obviously, myself and our board, we're really open-minded about, what the sport needs to do. We understand where the sport is. And ultimately, we've all voted to bring IMG in, and we've given them a mandate to go out and do a job. And our view was that, there's certain aspects of the proposals that we don't like. We got the opportunity to discuss those. We got the opportunity to consult with the people we needed to consult with. And to be honest, a few of the changes that were made actually were, things that we believe needed changing. So we felt that it wasn't just lip service. We got, we got listened to in the right way. And the changes, I think, were positive changes for the game. I do believe that if you're doing a lot of work in your community and you're doing the right things in terms of player development and development generally, I think that should be rewarded. And possibly in the initial proposals, in the initial drafts, it wasn't quite as clear and quite as sort of rewarding for those who were doing that type of thing. So we felt the changes were good. Like anything, there was never going to be the perfect scenario, the perfect proposal that was, it's not a one size fits all, and it was never going to suit everybody. But I think we just looked at it as a board and said, well, there's no clear and obvious reason to vote against it. And we understand that we've mandated IMG to do a job. They've got to be given, full support and backing to go out and do that job. So to, have not voted for them in essentially the first thing that they're going to do, that would have been a vote of no confidence to IMG, wouldn't it? So we just couldn't even consider that.
Yeah, that makes total sense. They've come in, they've been voted in, and you've got to back the proposals. But it sounds as though they've adjusted them slightly based on some of that consultation. So that shows that they're open and trying to take on board everyone's thoughts and improve it from the first draft. Is that right? Yeah,
and I think, there's been I've seen criticisms from other clubs and people who've been quite vocal and don't get me wrong, I do understand. Everybody's got a view and entitled to a view, and I understand a lot of it. And there's certain aspects of it that I don't like. But on the whole, I think it's a case of we have got to get on with it. We've got to get into, sort of top gear now to push the sport forward into the next broadcast negotiations, into those, TV broadcast cycles of not just the next couple of years, but IMG have signed up long term and they're going to do a job over the next 10, 11 years. And I think we've got to, give them that opportunity now to crack on, and let's judge IMG and let's judge the merits of this grading in maybe 5 to 10 years' time. And I don't think we're in a position as a sport, and certainly where we are in the pecking order in League One, in all honesty, we haven't got a great deal to lose because the broadcast revenues are probably as low as they've ever been. Our central distributions are as low as they've ever been. And the sport, is in a place where I believe, hopefully, the only way is up now. And, that's going to benefit everybody. It's a financial model. The sport has a financial model that's top-driven. It's driven from the top down. So the money comes in. And let's be honest, the broadcaster buys Super League. And if they buy Super League, we need the Super League competition to be the very best it can be, with the best grounds and the best teams and the strongest possible product, don't we? So that is my view. I know you'll get a lot of people who'll say, well, it's a closed shop. I don't believe it is. I think don't get me wrong, it'll be challenging for people who have ambitions of getting in Super League. They're going to have the ducks lined up and some serious investment maybe in areas where they need to improve. But ultimately, that's got to be the goal has got to be to improve, hasn't it? And got to be to drive those standards to ultimately make sure we have got an elite competition with elite clubs in elite stadia.
Yeah. Where do you feel Rochdale are in that sort of scoring chart at the moment, Andy?
Well, Rochdale's a long-term project anyway. So what the grading system does, it actually works favourable for us in a lot of areas. So just looking at the catchment area, we are a large borough in our own right. We've got a catchment of 230,000 people. So, in that particular area, we've got a large market at our, on our doorstep, at our disposal. In terms of all the other aspects that, the ladies' teams, the wheelchair, you maybe see on social media at the moment, we're just in the process of launching learning disabilities teams and physical disabilities teams. So for all the stuff that we've sort of invested in over the last 18 months, 2 years, actually, there's a bit of reward, hopefully, long-term for that now. And our project at Rochdale is long-term. We're not talking about Super League. It's not something that's on our agenda right now. But where we want to position the club is to give it, the opportunity to be able to talk about Super League in maybe 5 years' time. and certainly be a strong championship club, or whatever the structure looks like outside of Super League in 5 years. We want to be competitive and at the higher end of it. So, this grading system, I think, gives you a roadmap, if you like, a framework to be able to go and say, well, if I do X, Y, and Z, and we work towards X, Y, and Z, then we know we're going to score points. And if we then, you get to that milestone and you look at where else you can develop your club, and I think what it's doing, it's driving standards. And I'm a massive believer in any, whether it's in your own business or in sport, you've got to set goals, you've got to set standards, and you've got to try and, you never aim to meet the standards. You're always trying to get past them, don't you? And you overachieve on your goals. And this is what a grading system does for me. It's not perfect, and I've seen criticisms. There's a lack of detail, and I understand that. I do think that there was a lack of detail, but then on the flip side of that, I think we're voting for a concept rather than the absolute finished product. So, the detail will come, and hopefully it'll be, favourable to all the clubs, and we can all work to improve our clubs within it.
Yeah. What elements of details do you think were lacking? Is it sort of like the finite details of how they're going to approach broadcasters and things like that, or is it something else, Andy?
I think when I say detail, it was more we understand what the pillars are, and we understand what the points you can achieve are for those in those particular pillars. But the actual, shall we say, the nuts and bolts of it, if you like, the backup, the substantiation, the detail as such, the minimum standards, requirements, etc., have not really been at this stage forthcoming. So I think we've voted mainly on the concept and the understanding of the model, what the model looks like and what the scoring looks like, but we don't necessarily understand the finite detail of the actual pillars, if you like, and the backup to the pillars. But I'm sure that will come in time, and ultimately, it's like anything else. There's going to be a lot of work has to be done by all clubs, Super League, down, and I think it's just a case of these standards have been set by an independent consultant, and we've just got to buy into them, haven't we? I don't see a viable option to it. I didn't see an alternative. Had we all voted no in that room, where would we be today?
Where do we go? Where do we go if we say no to it? Yeah.
And I've seen people saying, well, it's not. It's sort of sport by spreadsheet and one thing and another. But ultimately, I don't see another way. I think you've got to try and drive the standards. It's proven that what we've done, the definition of insanity is when you keep doing the same thing and
expect a different result. Yeah.
So yeah, it's one. I think I think it's a little bit of a concept that incorporates a lot of the things that we've tried. Maybe some of the things we've done successfully. We're maybe having another go at certain things that might not have been given enough time to succeed previously. And it's a bit of a, let's be honest, we're taking a little bit of a leap of faith. But, IMG are proven in their field. And, if anybody's going to be able to do something with us and help us drive this game to where it needs to be, I'm pretty confident they are the company.
Yeah, we're fully behind it as well. And before we close, Andy, just tell us a little bit about how Rochdale are going at the moment. So you spoke a little bit about all the great community work you do, but the first team are struggling a little bit. But I know you're approaching it slightly different this year. So was that to be expected?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you're honest, and you try, ultimately we've got to drum up our supporters and give them some optimism and some excitement. But ultimately, we have been sort of pretty clear about where we are in the process, and we're back at square one, really. Gary was given a remit to, get the culture right and build us a young team that can be progressed over a number of years. And, that is difficult, especially when it's a significantly less player budget and spend that we've had over the last few years. It's, it's not an easy job, but Gary's working overtime on that. He's a very honest and decent man and a good coach and a good person. And, there's clear improvements in our environment and within the culture of the club. And we've just had a difficult trot. We've started the season. We had a good win in the cup, but then we Drew Dewsbury, who were sort of, the best side in this comp, if we're being honest. Then we've played Dewsbury again. We played Doncaster, who were probably the second best side in the comp, if I'm honest. And then, we played Oldham, who are in a different space to where they were last year. And, we caught for a bit of an hiding on Good Friday. We came up against an Oldham side that had ported in 4 full-time, good quality professionals from Wigan. And we don't get me wrong, our performance wasn't brilliant. But when you're coming up against a side with, that's already got quality in the likes of Martin Ridyard and others, and you're putting 4 full-timers from Wigan in there, we just didn't have the on the night. We just couldn't compete with that. But we will get there. I'm confident. It's a young group. It's enthusiastic. We've not once been beat for effort, and they're not getting beat for effort. And we came up a point short against the good Workington side on Sunday.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty confident that they'll get there, and it's just going to take a bit of time and a bit of patience, which sometimes I appreciate fans don't necessarily have. But if I could say one thing is, this is a good group of people, and Gary's a good coach, and they're an honest bunch, and they're going to give their 100% best to get some results this year. And I'm still confident we can achieve the season's goals. We set some goals, and we can still get there this year.
Yeah, I'm sure that the fans of Rochdale can see that you're doing it the right way. They can see all the community work. They can see you've developed and created a young playing squad, which will over time improve. So you may not get the results at the start when you use that model, but those results will come over time, and hopefully later this year they build, because they've had some close results and some tough games, as you say. So the league position may not be realistic just yet.
Yeah,
you've got a chance to climb.
Yeah, like you say, you're building for a future. You're not building for a season, are you? You're not saying, right, this is what we're doing this season, we're going to smash it next season. Right, what do we do now? You've set the wheels in motion and putting the right foundations in, and like you said, them kind of things take time to bed in, and then also it gives you a platform to continually grow from as well.
That's the thing, is for the first time been at the club, I've felt that we're on the right track in terms of the attitude of people within the club and the culture and the environment, and we're possibly coming up a little bit short just in terms of experience and quality, but that we can address as the year goes on, and into next year you can start adding to and building on these this basis of a good young side that we've got. So it's going to be there'll be ups and downs, but I'm pretty confident we'll start picking some results up, and it's all about being competitive for me this year. I think two of the performances has been disappointing against Dewsbury and Oldham. Don't get me wrong, the good sides, and they're spending a heck of a lot more than we are, and have probably got a bit more quality. But it's how you get beat sometimes, isn't it? And nobody, myself included, the fans, we don't like getting beat by 50 points. But if we can be competitive in those games and win the games that we believe we need to win this year, it was all about this year was about getting in the playoffs, and I still think we can do that. So, and the lads are going to get 100% supported all year. We're a tight bunch, and that goes from the top down. We're going to stick together regardless of what happens this year. We'll all be stick together, and the fans are good. In the main, they understand it and they support the lads, and that's what it's all about for me, because you win together and you lose together, don't you, in this game? And if you stick together, you get your rewards, I believe.
Definitely. Well, we wish you the very best of luck for the rest of the season, and thanks very much for sharing your insights into IMG and how that unfolded. And yeah, we're hopefully looking forward to a very, very bright future, and it's good to see you doing so well, Andy, and happy and enjoying your role as chairman. So thanks very much for coming back on the show.
Thanks very much, fellas. Always great to talk to you. Thank you.
Don't forget, after tonight's show, leave your views in our comments section. We'd love to hear from you.
The Dockhouse Rugby Show is proud to support the Teardrops Homeless Charity. Teardrops, supporting your community.
Keith and Dave talk all things rugby league on the Dockhouse Rugby Show, with news, match reviews and special guests from the world of rugby league. Also available in audio format as the Dockhouse Rugby Pod.